right, all right. Welcome, people. Welcome, people. It's glad to have everybody here. It's glad to have everybody here. I believe everybody can hear me loud and clear. I believe I'm audible enough for everybody to hear loud and clear. If you can, just drop it. You can drop a message on the chat or give a wave if you can hear me. All right, fantastic. For those on YouTube who's joining from YouTube, all right. Also, let me know. Okay. It's good to have everybody here again today, and welcome to this session. It's going to be a very interesting session, all right? And I trust that everybody will find it really, really interesting and encouraging, all right? Uh, so today we'll be looking into purely a practical session on Microsoft Dataverse. It's going to be a practical session on Microsoft Dataverse. And for those who are joining us for the very first time, I'll just introduce myself to you. My name is Ayo Tunde Ayola. I'll prefer you call me Ayo, all right? Just call me Ayo. And I'm a principal consultant with Stringify, also a Microsoft certified professional and trainer. All right, I have experience in the areas of Power Platform, Dynamic CRM, also in software and developers operations. All right, and I love transformations. Anything that has to do with transformations are the things I like to do digitally, really helping, digital aliens become digital natives. So those are things I personally love to do. Those are what I love to engage myself in. All right. So, and you can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn, via mail, and I'll be glad to, assist, help out in anything that you might need help with. All right. Fantastic. Going forward, like I said, today we'll be looking at what Dataverse, Microsoft Dataverse. I want to believe that everybody, one way or the other, you've had some sort of engagement with Microsoft Dataverse. All right. Please do let me know also if you can see my screen from your hand. If my screen is visible from your hand, please do let me know also. All right. Give me a thumbs up and let me know about that. Okay, so like I was saying, we're looking into Microsoft Dataverse. And one of the very first things I like to see before we delve into the practical side of things is that Dataverse, as it were, is a data service. Is a data service. So what do we mean by Dataverse being a data service? So what we're saying is that what Dataverse is a management system, a data management system, right? Formally, we call it a common data service. So it means that what we're talking about here does not only have to do with data storage, right? I'm sure we are all familiar with databases, and the function of databases basically is to store data. That is what data does, databases does naturally, right? However, when it comes to the function and the ability of how Dataverse works, Dataverse does not only help you store data. So data storage is one part, all right. However, there are other parts of the system of Dataverse as a system that makes your operations and your work, your business processes much more easier rather than having to store data and retrieve data for your project, for your applications, and all of that. But with Dataverse, you are able to one, store data, two, you are able to perform some other activities that relates to what database or data management as a whole. And that is what data, and that's why we call it a service. So a service that assists you in performing high-end activities like security modeling, high-end activities like your entity relationship management, high-end activities like what application development itself. So Dataverse gives a whole lot of possibilities, beyond and above what you would normally do with general database systems like your SQL, like your Oracle DB, like your MySQL. Some people use SharePoint and all of that. So you would notice that all of those platforms allows for database storage. So you can create your tables, your rows and columns and all of that, create your DB relationships, and you can connect them to your applications to store data and to retrieve data. That is what you would enjoy with a bespoke database system. But with Dataverse, that box is checked. However, when we now take it forward to managing an entire system, I want to be able to manage my system in terms of security management. I want to be able to manage my system in terms of making it available as a data engine for other platforms. Is that possible? And all of that. So all of those things are what we're going to be looking into. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how Dataverse works, I'm telling you, by the end of this training, you will be so excited because I'm going to try and make it so simple. We'll take it one step at the other, just to touch base with how you can, kick off with the Dataverse system itself. All right. So we'll be looking at things around Dataverse table compositions, which will allow us look into the relational database orientation side of that system. That's one. So when I say relational database model, we're looking at table creations, column creations, relationships, and all of that. We'll look into all of those. Then two, we'll be looking into the automation side, right? Dataverse as an engine allows for automations, integrations, data integrations. That's data import, data export, and all of that. Okay, so we'll be looking into that possibility. Another thing we'll be looking into, definitely in looking at Dataverse, we'll then be looking at security systems. How does Dataverse handle security? What are the security synchronization of Microsoft Dataverse? So we'll look at that also, and then we'll look at a few things around administration of the Microsoft Dataverse. All right, so these are some of the things we'll be looking into while we talk about the Microsoft Dataverse. Now, not to waste our time, like I said, it's going to be a practical instance. Okay, one of the things I'm going to do is, while I take us through this practical instance, at the end of the training, I'm going to also walk us through how you can create a set of accounts that you can use as a tryout, because I understand that when we learn things, it is better to know them or be consistent with that thing we're learning when you try them out yourself, right? So trying them out yourself makes you better, right, on the use of that particular element, in this case on the use of that particular element. So that's one of the things that we would be doing. Now, to kick off this conversation, to kick off this session, what do we start with? We're talking about Dataverse, and I've explained the fact that it is a data system, right, a data service system. Now, this is it. The Microsoft Dataverse is a system that sits on the Microsoft cloud infrastructure, which is Azure. Azure is like the Microsoft cloud infrastructure. So Dataverse sits on the Microsoft infrastructure, cloud infrastructure. Now, when we say it sits on the Microsoft cloud infrastructure, there's an hierarchy to this. So there's Microsoft cloud infrastructure, Microsoft Azure. Inside the Microsoft Azure, we have other major elements. You have your Microsoft 365, right? Which is where you have your Microsoft Office tools. So when you talk about, let me show you what I'm saying. So if you look at my screen right now, what I'm showing to you is the Microsoft 365 system, all right, where you can have access to all of these Microsoft oriented applications, right? So all of them are seated inside what the Microsoft 365 infrastructure, right? So that's that. Now, we now have other systems. So I'm sure a lot of us has heard of Dynamics 365. You've heard of uh, Microsoft Power Platform, and a few other systems like that, right? So the idea about all of those is that all of them They are all Microsoft systems, right? Sitting on what? On Microsoft Azure, like I said, sitting on Microsoft Azure. Now, Microsoft Dataverse is now classified as an engine that the Microsoft Power Platform or the Microsoft Dynamics CRM both sit on. So the Microsoft Power Platform, which helps in business application development, and then the Microsoft Dynamics, which helps in customer engagement, finance modules, finance modeling, and all of that. Both are now leverage on Dataverse, especially the CRM and the Power Platform. So both engines are seated on the Dataverse. So Dataverse becomes the supplier of what, or the data supplier of whatever it is you are going to be doing on the Microsoft Power Platform and then on your CRM. So that is what Dataverse does. So Dataverse, you find it inside the same cloud infrastructure. So to have a database environment or to have a database system, it means that what you must first and foremost have a connection to the cloud infrastructure of Microsoft, which means there's a license you have that allows for that possibility. So, the same way you would probably need to get a provision for you to be able to use any other data instance. In Microsoft, you need to have, say, a Microsoft 365 license, and then buy maybe a standalone license of Power Apps or CRM, and that gives you access to that Dataverse engine. All right, that's one. Number two is in Microsoft, there's something we call environment. All right, there's something we call environment. So you've heard people talk about environment and all of that. So when we talk about environment, what are we talking about inside the Microsoft Power Platform system? Now, environment are containers. So if you look at my screen right now, you would see I have quite a few of them. Sandbox environment, developers account, default. Now, these are all different kinds of environment. So when you hear people talk about environment in Power Platform and all of that, what are they talking about? What they are talking about is an environment becomes or serve as what? A container. So you are building applications, you are building automations and all of that. All of them needs to sit in a place, right? So environment serves as that container where your resources lives. So watch this carefully. I will open one of my environment up. Say, let me open the default environment now, for example. When I open up my default environment, if I have built any application with Power Apps, if I have built any automations with Power Automate and whatsoever, or if I have any CRM instances that I've done in this environment, I will find them all inside this environment, because this environment serves as a bucket that holds them. Like it's like saying hosting. Like your hosting platform. When you have an hosting platform, you can have multiple applications hosted on an hosting platform, something like that. So if you look at this environment called Ascend, take your eyes to my right hand side where I have resources. Now, if you look at where I have resources, everyone, you would notice I have Power Apps, Flow, Power Pages, Dynamics. So it means that what? If I have this set of resources, I should find them here. So let's confirm. We'll click on Power Apps. Don't forget where we are. We are inside the Power Platform Administrative Center. So the Power Platform Admin Center is where we do manage environment. Don't forget, environment are containers to hold resources. So let's open these up and let's see what we have. Exactly. So you can see now that my applications are live and visible here. Now, how do we affirm that what I'm saying is true? Then everybody notes that we are currently on a tab called the Power Platform Admin Center. I want you to look at that tab and take your eyes to the next tab. So I'm going to go to a tab called Power Apps, right? Power Apps. And I'm going to switch environment. Notice that I want us to get the difference clear, because this is a practical session, so I will take it straightforward. This is what? The Power Platform Admin Center. Note that And then right next to the Power Platform Admin Center is the Power Apps homepage. All right. If you want to take those URLs down, you can do that. If you're going to Power Apps, you would go to make.powerapps.com. That's the URL for Power Apps. If you're going to Admin Center, you will see admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com, because the Power Platform Admin Center manages all the technology angles of Power Platform, from Power Apps to Power Automate to to Power Virtual Agent to Power Pages. Power BI is the only one that stands out, and I will explain that if time permits why Power BI is not environment oriented. So we see that who lost me. Drop a message in the chat on Teams if you can hear me. Drop a message in the chat if you can see me. If you can hear and see me, drop a message in the chat or give me a thumbs up. All right, fantastic. Okay, good. All right, good. Okay, apologies for that, everybody. Apologies for that. All right, so like I was explaining earlier. So I was saying that, okay, guys on YouTube, let me see. Okay, loud and clear, fantastic. All right. Just give me 1 minute. We'll switch over again, but let's continue. All right. So you will see that I am currently in an environment. Everybody, watch my screen carefully. The environment we are currently says Stringify DevOps. That's the environment we are. And you can see the applications we have here, right? You will see that the applications you can see here is not the same as what you can see on the admin center, right? There are two different applications. Why? Because I am currently in an environment here called Ascend, and I am currently in another environment here. So let's switch environment, right, to that default environment. So let's go to that default in Power Apps. All right. So watch this. So we'll go to the default environment in Power Apps and let's see what happens. Fantastic. So we are in Power Apps now, and you can see I have security canvas apps, EY model driven app, and all of this. So just take your eyes and do like an high screenshot of my screen and just memorize some of the few apps here in your head. Now let's go back to the admin center and let's see whether we're in sync now this time around. Watch. We're back to the admin center. Can you see now? If we scroll a bit down, we can see some of those applications. that we see over there here. Where's the HEY? See the HEY model driven app here, right? And then if you scroll up, we'll see almost all similar applications that we have. Security Canvas app is here. So you see that what you're seeing on the admin center is that what you are seeing exactly the same application you can see on the Power Apps, which tells you that the environment manages. You see that the environment manages resources. It manages resources for us, and that's the idea of the environment, resource management. That's the idea, resource management, right? If I go to Power Automate, we're going to have exactly the same view. All right. So that establish what an environment does, right? As what being a container or a bucket that helps us hold resources of what we have. Now, one other thing is this: every environment, an environment inside the Microsoft Power Platform, has its own individual settings. And this is where we are going to start, sliding through to talking about Dataverse. Now, I am still inside this default environment, everybody, right? Notice that I have what I call settings. Don't forget, we're still inside the Power Platform Admin Center. Now, while we're in this default environment, we have settings. Now, if I click on that settings, you would see that I can do quite a lot of things here. I can manage users here. I can manage security systems here. I can manage teams here. I can manage auditing. Quite a lot of things are things we can do, which I will show us how they synchronize with Dataverse. We just talk them one after the other and then move from there. You see that we can do a lot of things here. And do here, right, are environment oriented. Now, when they are environment oriented, it means to be a data system that is controlling that instance. Because if I'm saying I'm doing audit for what? If I am saying I am doing security models, or I'm creating security profiles, or for example, look at this, everybody. It says column security profiles. If I say I'm creating a column security profile, for what? Right? So it means there has to be a data system that has elements that this administrative center needs to control. Do you see the idea now? So which means when I go to Dataverse and I create all I need to create in Dataverse, serves as like a backend or a support system to make your Dataverse function accurately. Did you see the idea now? So when you are working inside the Microsoft Power Platform, know this first, that you must be as versed as to manage the administrative center as much as you would manage the Dataverse instance. In this case, that understanding must come side by side. So every Dataverse environment should have Dataverse. So we call them Dataverse environment most times. But somebody might want to ask me, Ayo, can I create an environment without Dataverse? You can. That's possible. You can go ahead to the environment and decide to create an environment of Dataverse. But the only caveat there will be limitations to perform. So you'll not be able to create project applications off the box that can use the environment data system itself. You would have to connect that application every time to an external instance. You get to an external database. You have to do that over and over and over again. All right. But the idea is for every time you create an environment, watch this, everybody. I am inside the Power Platform Admin Center. I decide to create a new environment. Watch this. The system is asking me, do you want to create a database? So if I check this box, then what it will create is a Dataverse. So Dataverse is per environment. All right. Is per environment. Every environment has its own Dataverse created. So data is not shared between environments. So Stringify DevOps cannot share data with Stringify Ascent. Data that you have in Stringify DevOps, if I open Stringify DevOps environment now, you will see it has its own database version. So the data inside this Stringify DevOps stays there. See? It has its own database here. Can you see? Its own database is created. If I move out and I go to another environment that I have Dataverse created, like my default that we just left, watch this carefully. It has its own database. So every environment with their own data bucket, Do you get the idea? Now, if you those data to communicate to each other at any point in time, then you can go ahead to do integrations and all of those things. All right, you can go ahead to create to do integrations and all of those here in this case. Cool. All right, good. Now, so like I said, so your environment can be created off Dataverse. So that means if you create an environment that does not have Dataverse, that you didn't check Dataverse, right? And you create apps, you will have to now connect your apps to other data systems like SharePoint, like Oracle, like SQL, and all of that. So that external data systems will now become your database for your applications. All right. So that's the only difference between not having Dataverse created in an environment. I hope that makes sense to everybody. All right, cool. Now let's delve fully into this Dataverse, and we'll start off from what I said earlier, compositions. All right, don't mind Teams. Let's go here. Fantastic. So we are inside Microsoft Power App. So this, how do you access? Let's start. I want to really take it basic. So how do you access Dataverse? How do I get to where Dataverse is? I've shown us how to create it, right? When you create an environment, you check the box to say create database for this environment, and then the system will automatically provision Dataverse. Once it is done, notice this, that environment, in our case, we are working with Stringified DevOps. So when I come into Stringified DevOps, I will now go to Power Apps, either on Power Apps or on Power Automate. You can access Dataverse from both systems. Let me show you. We are currently in Power Apps. Take note of the URL, make.powerapps.com. What you're seeing after is the environment ID. If I switch environment, you will see a different ID. But this is the major address, make.powerapps.com. Everybody check that box, okay? You see that, and then you can see Dataverse. If I go to Power Automate, this is Power Automate. See, in Power Automate, I'm seeing exactly the same environment. Can you see the idea now? The same environment. So which means if I'm building an application, if I DevOps, I must be building the automation here also. Do you see? I would not want to go to another environment and build automation for an app in Stringified DevOps. It will not work. Do you get? You unless you are doing a custom connectivity or where you are querying external APIs. All right, in that case, cool. So you can see that in Power Automate or everybody, there's what we call data. Can you see data? All right, that's the same thing. It's still the same Dataverse. All right, here. All right, cool. Let's go back to Power Apps. So we'll continue. Which of them? Let me switch to this one. Okay, good. Now, welcome to Dataverse, everybody. And you would notice that when I opened Dataverse, the first thing you saw was tables. Tables. Like I said, it is a data system. So definitely it will still perform the function of relational database. So creating tables, creating columns. Now, the difference between Dataverse, everybody, and your conventional mode of creating, when we write SQL queries, right? And I'm to create table, I will need to write queries like create table, this. That's the idea, right? You have to write a query like that. That's the way it works when we talk about working with when you talk about working with relational database, you need to write query in this case. But when it comes to Dataverse simplifies the model for us. So imagine I have a structure, I have a scenario here where I want to create a table to help me hold attendee information, everybody on this call. So how do I go about doing that in this case? Now I have a solution here that I want to use to explain through the practical model, but I'll just do this first. Watch this, everybody. I am in Dataverse. You will notice there are three things you see here. Please take note. I'm taking it slow. There are three things you all see here. You see recommended, custom, and all. Let me explain what this is. Inside the Microsoft technology system, when you provision an environment, and you check Dataverse for that environment, automatically, Microsoft provisions, automatically you find out that there are tables already created out of the box. You will find tables created out. So you see all these tables you are seeing here, apart from a few, and I will explain the difference between those few. Anyone you see as Contoso, because I just get a solution from Microsoft to use for us. You see, anyone you see that has Contoso, yeah, it is not standard, it's custom. So let's explain what we mean by standard and custom. Let's start from there so that when you start your own, you know that I just said this. The moment you create an environment and then you check Dataverse for it, you get to have standard tables. Standard tables are tables that the Microsoft platform, it is provisioned for you because they are generic user-oriented tables based on years of findings. For example, if you work in sales or you work in marketing or you are a developer, something will be common to everybody: account. So for example, I'm to do a project for say a JP Morgan. That's a bank, right? If I am going to do that, it means that in our environment, we need to create JP Morgan as an account. Am I correct? We need to create JP Morgan as an account. So when we create JP Morgan as an account, I need to be talking to somebody. There has to be I'm interfacing with in JP Morgan. That's a contact, right? There has to be a contact I have. So accounts, contacts, can you see, are tables that are standard because over the years, the Microsoft development team already understood that, oh yes, there has to be an account, there has to be contact. Apart from account and contact, there are other activities that are possible. Number one, you probably, when you are collecting a contact, you probably have a place where you store emails. Emails is the contact information. Phone number, contact information, right? And a few other things like that that we might have access to, right? In this case. So all of those are standard entities, or standard information that is required when it comes to any database management system. So you can see, if you now look at on my right hand side, everybody, where you have tags, you will see that what you have some called core, standard, productivity, standard, core. All of them are out of the box. Anyone you see that has a tag called custom, that's the one you created. That's the one you created. So you see this customs one, this one called custom. Yeah, all this one called custom, those are the tables that were created by me. Or those are the tables that were created from any of my solution. Are you getting the idea? Every other one you probably see, every other one you see, everybody, every other one you see are what? Are your standard. So you can see things like one is handling account, one is handling address, one is handling appointment, and all of that. So these are all standard tables in this case. So that's one of the things we must put into key consideration. Okay, fantastic. Now let's go to what I talked about in starting up a Dataverse. You want to start by creating a table, right? To create a table. Now, when you go, you see at the top, you see where it says new table, you see where it says import, and you see where it says export. Those are like three major elements of table creations or of database system structuring. You are creating a new table, you are bringing in data, or you are sending out data. That's basically what you do. But let's start from the first one, which is what? Table creation. So when I go to new table, for example, I click on new table. Watch this carefully, everybody. Watch this carefully. So on the new table, it's asking me to put my table name. Don't forget, in SQL, what are we going to do? We'll have done create table. That's what we'll have done, right? Create table. All right. So just hold on 1 minute, everybody. Just hold on 1 minute. Just 1 minute, everybody. Just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Okay. Okay, fantastic. All right. So thank you everybody for holding on. I believe everybody can still see and hear me now. All right. All right. Can everybody see me and hear me? Let's confirm that before we continue. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. All right. So we're about to create a table here, right? So let's call this table Dataverse session, something like that. So you see that I'm saying this table is called Dataverse session. You see this Dataverse session. So that's me creating a table here. Now, all I did was pass the table name. You see that I didn't do anything different. All I did was just to pass that table name here, right? Now, normally, don't forget that when you pass a table name, the next thing you want to do after passing the table name is start declaring the columns, int, this is this, varchar, this is this. That's the normal way where we structure or how we build tables, right? But in Dataverse, notice something here. I passed in a table name, right? And the next line you saw was there's a plural name. And then you see something here that says enable attachment, and you're wondering what is that. If I click on advanced option, you see more things. You are seeing so many things, and you're wondering what are all of these elements that you're seeing in this case, right? So, for example, you see something we call a schema name. Now you see other things. Let me explain that. So schema name are your table nomenclature. You see, this is just a display name, right? This is just a display name. When it comes to the point of querying data, maybe you want to query this data from an application, whether it's an application internal in Microsoft or external to Microsoft, you cannot query display name. All right. Display name are only meant for visibility. So you cannot query display name. You need to query schemas. You can call them schema name or logical names or something like that. Why? Because there's a prefix, all right, that precedes the object name. Object in this case is a table, right? So there's a prefix so if I'm to write a function anywhere and I want to call up this guy, I'll be writing this in full. Do you get the idea? Because I'll be calling this table using this element, this prefix element, right? This publisher element in this case. And then you see that the next thing is asking me my table type. It's asking me my table type. Is it a standard table? Is it an activity table? Is it a virtual table? So when we talk about standard table just means your table. So there is nothing there, table that you can pass information to, retrieve information from. It's the same thing with all table. The only difference is when you call a table an activity table, what you're saying is the table performs a specific role, maybe like a phone number table, a fax table, an email table. So those are activity oriented. And then virtual table is like a table you use to query information from another platform. So like I create a table and that table serves as a representation of an information from a third-party platform. You see that? So depending on what your project model is, you can determine what kind of table you are looking at here, right? Now, after all of this, below are some very important things that a table contains. right? Now, you know that normally we'll write query for a lot of things, or at some point you have to even write functions, your codes, right? Just to get some things done on your DB. For example, I have to write some C# function to get some activities done. For example, audit, and all of tracking to say. So there are activities you want to do that you need to write functions for. Now, what Microsoft has done is note those activities and then brought them into a centralized model. So, for example, I am creating this table, but I would love to audit this table later. Audit means I want to get the logs. Logs is what? I want to know when someone creates an information on my table. If an information was deleted, I need to be able to know when it was deleted. I want to get the logs, the audit logs of my table. If I want to get the audit logs on a bespoke application, I need to write a function, right? To be able to query my table, my database. But in Microsoft Dataverse, what you need to just do is come down and you see where you have audit changes to its data. When you check this box, what you're saying is, I am making this table open up for auditing so that I can query the logs. I can get the logs of that table, right? I can get the information. I can be able to track what is happening on this table. That's one. You can track changes. So tracking of changes is almost similar to what you have with audit in this case. So like I want to be able to see what is happening to my table in and out. Then you have duplicate detection. So if I have two similar data, see that, do I want to have two similar data? Do I want to be able to say if Ezekiel Alo exists on this table and a new data is being entered and that new data contains Ezekiel Alo, please reject it. That's duplicate detection. See, that's what I'm doing here. Now, I know you would ask me a question to say, fantastic, I can check all of these boxes, but how do they work? How does the system know that what it should look for is full name, is Ezekiel Alo, or just why not just first name alone? Why not just length? You get all of those information, right? That's why I said earlier when I took us to the admin center that there's a connection between the admin center and Dataverse. So take your eyes, everybody, off the Dataverse table we are creating, all right? And let's take our eyes back again. When we come back, our table might be gone, but don't worry, we'll open it again. Let's go back to our environment. If I open Stringify DevOps environment again, from the admin center, come on now, let's go. Fantastic. And I go to settings. Everybody watch this carefully, and you can see where I have data management. Can you see that? Data management. If I expand data management, can you see this? It says duplicate detection rule. You see that? Let me open that, though we'll come back there. I'll show us how to do it also. All right, I'm looking at my time. Well, it's a 2-hour session, so let's see how we can cover all of those things. So you see, I can do that. If I want to do audit, you see where it says audit and logs, I will need to come and enable audit for my environment. The system told us something here. Where's that guy? It says what? This table will not be audited until auditing is enabled for the organization. So it means I have to come here and enable audit for my organization so that the system can understand that auditing is permitted for this table. And that goes across board every other element. See, there's something we call bulk deletion here, right? So which means if I need to bulk deletion will help me maybe there's data that is more than 7 days or data that is more than 1 month. Delete all of them. System looks into all data that is more than 1 month and delete them. So these are all elements. You can see them. Maybe you are creating a customer service table, a table to help you maybe collect ticket, logged information, and you want to be able to allow people to put a feedback. You can check this box to say, I want to allow feedbacks, or I want to add this entry to a queue. You see that? So you do not have to write those queries, but you can check those boxes here and then you get them done. You see, you get them done easily. All right. So these are all elements of a table that these ones are row based, table option based, and then this one are generic for the table. So you can get all of these elements to help your table what function as the case may be. So let's just create this table, all right, and then I'll just save this table. So we see how simple it is now to create a table. That's just how it is to create a table. You can now determine which of the other elements of that table you need for your project. If your project requires a feedback, you can decide to just check. You know why? If I check that feedback, there is already an existing table called feedback. So what the system will do is simply enable the relationship with let this table get saved, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So if I check that feedback, because feedback means you want to collect information, right? So the system already has an orientation or has a structure of what feedback. There's a feedback table existing, which means all it's going to do for me is making sure that what the feedback table and my new and my current table are properly related. Look at what I'm talking about, everybody. So this is the table we just created, right? It's called Dataverse session. That's our table. You can see table. But let's go back to generate all the tables and let me show us something there before we go further. Look at this, everybody. Can you see this? This is a table called what? Feedback. Can you see feedback? Is a standard table, is a knowledge-based table. Can you see feedback? So if I go to our own table, the one we just created called Dataverse, see, this is our table. Can you see? You see our table has the prefix and then is a custom table. Can you see that? So it shows to me that this is my table and I'm able to identify it by what? By my prefix, by the real nomenclature. So if I open back the table, now, let's open back the table. And then let's look at, so let's get into some serious. So I hope that is clear. All right. Now watch this carefully. Watch this carefully, everybody. Table is open now. Now, inside this table, don't forget, this is Dataverse. This is table creation. We're still talking about table composition. Inside this table, I've created a table, right? The next thing that happens in a table is how do you now receive information into that table? Exactly what I told us earlier, that when you provision a Dataverse for an environment, right? What happens? You have standard tables already created. Then you can go ahead to create your own custom table. You see that exact activity happens in the table itself. So we have this table called Dataverse session table. If I go here, you see you have some three major tile here. One is called schema. One is called data experiences. The other one is called customizations. Schema contains where you can create your columns. What are columns? Columns is where you receive data or is where you store data. Relationships is what? Is simply what? How your table interact with other tables. So interactions between your table and other related table, other tables you want to relate with, right? That's relationships. And then definitely keys is what? We call these alternate keys. Microsoft calls it alternate keys. Now, because one interesting thing is this, and take this, look at this very carefully, everybody. Every table should have a primary key. I believe that, right? That's the way database works. Every table should have a primary key. Now, in the Microsoft Dataverse, once you create a table, automatically the system provisions that primary key for you. We call it the unique identifier, right? And then much emphasis is placed on relationships, because what relationship does is it helps us to have a very good solid table conversations. That's what relationship does. So if I'm relating this Dataverse table to maybe an account table, for example, I can query the account table the way I want it based on my relationship. So it limits the usage of maybe foreign keys and all of that, because you wouldn't really need to do that, because the relationship of this system Dataverse will have done the bulk of the work for us. Watch what I'm talking about. If I go to columns, let's start from columns, and we open columns. So you see that we'll find out there are already standard columns. Fantastic, no argument. You see them. You see they're already out of the box columns. How do we know which is out of the box, which is not out of the box, and all of that? Yeah, you can already see them. All of these are not the tables we create. I can easily know my table by my prefix. by your schema name. See, my schema name, CR7, whatever session ID. That's your primary key, unique identifier. Can you see the data type? Unique identifier. I can see that. Then the system also create a primary column for us. If we scroll down, we'll be able to see our primary column. See, a primary column also carrying the same prefix. So these two columns that you see me checked here, both of them are what? Are custom. Because when we provision the table, the system provisions this for us. They are custom. Every other column you see are what? They are out of the box. So, and if you look at them, they make sense, right? How do I mean? Watch this, for example. This one says created by, created on. It means that what? Anytime anybody creates a record or an information on this table, the system automatically lets you know who created that element. How? Through a relationship. So let's look at it. Columns is going to lead us to relationships. So, for example, if I create a data on this table, the system lets me know that, oh, Ayok created this information. How will I know Ayok created this information? Because it's going to look up to somewhere. Then the question is, where is created by going to look up to? Right? When we get to relationship, I will address that. Right? So you can see it's the same thing across board with other elements, owners, and all of that. So these are all standard because they have a reason. You see, this one says status and is a choice. Status and is a choice. What does it mean? Right? It means that what? Your table columns can either be active or inactive. You might want to make your table active or your table column active or inactive. And that's what status does for you. That's one. Two, you might have a different scenario, a different work case scenario for your table. Maybe you are working with a submission kind of project, and your submission project means something like it's pending, it's in progress, it's completed. You can have those kind of options, right? So if you have options like that, you might want to have your own choice created. That's where you have your status reason. Okay, so but we'll go to all of those. Now let's look at columns. So these are columns, and every column has a data type. I'm sure everybody is familiar with that, right? What I'm just trying to show to you is your knowledge of database. All right, your database knowledge is not what you do with your normal database is exactly the same thing you'll find in Dataverse. So if I go to new column, you see the same way. Let's say I'm saying this column is I want to use this column to retrieve, say, let me say skill set, or let me just say, let's just pick a random the Dataverse version. Let's say I want to collect your skill set. Let's say skill set. Yeah, so I put skill set. Now, just the same way it is. Instead of me writing int 32 this in my query, it's asking me what kind of information do you want to collect? Is your information string? So in Microsoft we call string text. String. So when you hear people say text in Microsoft Power Platform, what they are saying is string. Okay, it's the same thing you understand by string. So you see, it says text, and then it's asking you what kind of text. Text can be in two forms. They can be single line, they can be multi-line. What do we mean by that? It means that depending on the kind of word, when you are writing your int, your varchar in your your SQL, you will state it whether it's 255, 256, and all of. So that length of information you want to collect, right, is what Microsoft Dataverse has helped us chunk down into. Single line means I think it's you can have it between 0 and I think 200 thereabouts. You can set that time, you can set that structure. If I click plain single line now, for example, and I go to advanced option, can you see I can select my maximum count to say the maximum character I want is 100 or 1000. Do you get the idea now? So that's the idea of that character count. You must be able to pass them in. So which is the same thing you would do generally. Apart from that single line of text, you have other formats. You might have a text area. So a text area is your your text area and a rich text is like your HTML. That means you want to pass like maybe an HTML oriented kind of conversation tag, like, yeah. you can do that. Then you have your activities, email, phone number, and other ones. And if it is multi-line, which means you want to have, like a sentence-oriented kind of thing, yeah, you can choose multi-line. That's for string. Then you have number, right? Let me go back there. You have number. So under the number data type, you can select any of these. Is it whole number you're looking at? Is it decimal you're looking at? Is it float you're looking at? Yeah. Are you looking at double? Decimal is double here. So we use decimal as double. Are you looking at the language code, duration, time zones? So you can determine what number you're looking at here. And then you have date and time. Date only, date and time. You have lookup. So lookup is, so you can see two. Lookup simply means you want to look up to another table. If I select this lookup, it's going to ask me to pick the related table. Can you see? So it's asking me, which table do you want to retrieve information from? You see that? So that means I am on this table called Dataverse version or session, but I need to retrieve information to this specific column from another table. That's lookup. Literally, guys, when you do a one-to-many relationship or a many-to-one relationship, that's exactly what you're doing. Referential, for example, when you do a one-to-many or many-to-one relationship referential, it means you are looking up, right? You are looking up. So that's basically what it means. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. So you can decide to look up. And you would see that another one says look up to customer. And you'll be wondering, what does it mean, look up to customer? So customer is, like I said to us when I started this, I said Microsoft, based on experience, has done some things. This system supplies or serves your Power Platform and your CRM system. In a CRM system already, don't forget, you deal with account and contact, right? You have accounts, you have contact, and then you deal with Microsoft 365. I started from that. And in Microsoft 365, we have what we call the Active Directory, right? What is the Active Directory? That is where you have user management, right? If you go to an Active Directory, all the users in that organization will be inside the Active Directory. Do you get the point? So when you're looking at customers, it means there is a table called customer table where you can have all your customer contact information. So you can actually create a column to look directly into that information. Yeah, you can do that. But in most cases, lookup is fine, because with lookup, you can still pick any table of your choice to retrieve information from. Fantastic, right? So that's still a possibility of what can be done. Yep, cool. And then you have choice. So choice are either of two things, booleans or your choice. So your choice could be your checkbox or your radio button. That's a list of options, right? Your list of options. So you can list options. So if I click on choice, watch this. So simple. If I already have maybe you have a table already that contains what you're looking at, or you have an element that contains what you're looking at. When I say sync with global choice, what will happen is it will just return all I need, all the existing tables, and I can just select or add the existing element, and I can select the element I want. But if you want to do yours by typing what you need, you can say no. And then when I say no, I can start coming to say type A. You see that? And I had a new choice, type B. Can you see? And I can keep adding my choices like that, my choices. So it becomes a choice so that I can now use in my applications, in my models, or whatever it is. So you can see the idea now, right? I can have my choice manually, and then you can see the value. So the value is just like attaching an ID to each of those choices. That's what it means. So somebody might want to ask me, where is this useful? So if you are writing a JavaScript function, for example, to query Dataverse, you might need to reference this kind of ID in a JavaScript function just to retrieve this kind of data. So these IDs are very important, all right, in this case. Make sense? So that's choice for you. What other data type do we have? We have currency, we have auto. Auto number is just simply incremental. So that means on that column, for every new data, it increments. And it's interesting because you can decide what you want. And I can have a prefix. I can call this Dataverse DT V, and you can see what it has done, everybody. DTV space, and I can decide to say I want my seed value to start from 5,000 or 5 million, something. Can you see? And it just help you increment your date. So for every data that comes into that table, it just increments. It just increments for you. Can you see the idea? Very interesting. It just increments it for you. You don't even have to do anything, and it follows your nomenclature. And you can increase your digits. You see, currently it's 4 digits. If I say I want 6, it turns it to 6. You see the idea, right? And I can determine to say, see, I want, because I want, that's what I want. You see that? So you can set what you need. You see what I'm showing us, everybody, right? We are talking about columns, and you see that your understanding of columns and data type is still being maintained. Nothing changes in this. All right. So you can see where we started from: table creation. From table creation, you go to columns, right? And then you go to columns, right? Fantastic. And you can see that in columns, now watch this carefully. I can show us, you can determine your character count. Now, there are something you are seeing here that are very sweet, and I'm going to show us. Enable column security. This is where, when we get to security conversation, you would really, this is where it gets more interesting about Dataverse, because security is one thing everybody really have issues with when it comes to database management, right? Security. And Microsoft Dataverse has so worked on security that you would not even believe what I'm going to show you. You can say I can enable column, I can enable column security here, right? This is just one arm of security. There's still security roles, there's still security profiles. It's so beautiful, but I will pause this on. I will pause on this so we can move to the next one, and then we'll come back to security when we get to security conversation. So you see, we checked on audit earlier for the table. You remember that, right? Because we checked on audit for the table. Audit is available. It's asking me, do you actually want this particular column? Can you see how interesting it is? Do you want this particular column to be part of the audit? You know, I can have 10 columns in the table and decide to say I only want 5 of them to be open for audit. So if I check audit for this particular column, when I'm checking audit report logs in security platform, right? It will return all the columns in the table that are enabled for auditing. The ones that are not enabled for that kind of audit, I will not see them on the logs. Can you see the idea? It's the same thing with column security. You know, you can have a situation where you say, let me pick names on this call. I can say, I want Naveen and Ezekiel to have access to this column. I don't want Adedeji and Pelumi to have access to this column. I can separate it. Like, I don't want these two persons having column access. I want these two persons having column access. And they are all in the same company, in the same environment. They have access to the same application. They have access to the same database. But I'm chunking it down to the point of saying, nah, I don't want these two persons having column access to this particular information. I want these two to have access. That's where column security comes in. And you see, when you check column security, if you now go back to the admin center, you see where we started from earlier. On the admin center, I will now go and create a column profile based on the security roles that I have already created earlier. See, so when I come here and I create, so this column security profile is what I will use to validate what I have done, what I've done here. Can you see? But this column security profile itself, the validation will come from what? Security roles. Now, that's so many things I'm talking about at the same time. So what we do is hold that at your hand. All right. In terms of security, we're not on security yet. It's a conversation that we don't even want to delve into now. Let's leave security at one side. Let's go to what? Our composition, and let's finish our composition. So first level of our composition is on schema, and that's column. And I hope column is clear to everybody. Now, don't worry. I will take questions. Definitely, I will enable everybody to take questions. And I'm seeing questions coming from people, joining from YouTube and Facebook. I can see their questions. So I will take questions definitely. All right. And like I said, it's a 2-hour session, and it's almost 2 hours. I doubt if we can even finish this. Maybe we'll have a follow-up session of this. All right. So columns, first thing, right? I hope that's clear to everybody. So we can see that all of these are columns, whether they are standard or let's create one. The one I did now, I didn't save it, right? Imagine. Let's save it. Let's call it skill set. Let's save it. Let us give a simple line of text. I think that's fine. Let's leave every other thing. If we need this, we'll come back to it later. I will save that. I will add one more column, just one more. Let's add one more column. Fantastic. So we have skill set as a column on this same table. Let's add one more column and call it let's make it something choice. Say experience. Yeah, experience. Fantastic. So let's make this experience choice column, right? Choice, no, and then let's put some experience. Let's say call it beginner, say intermediate, and let's add just one more. Say advanced. Advanced. Yep, fantastic. And then so I can select which one I want to be my default choice if I want, but I will just leave it the way it is. And yeah, let's leave it. See, I can sort. Can you see the idea? I can even sort here. I can sort to say maybe I want to sort by maybe advanced to beginner, beginner to advanced. I can click on sorting. All right. But let's just save. Let's save all of this for now. Cool. So we have two columns on the Dataverse table. Now, moving on, don't forget we are still talking about schema, and we just finished talking about columns. Let's go to the next item, relationships. Now, relationships is where a lot of people, application developers, database managers, all of those is where a lot of people have a lot of issues. A lot of people don't understand how relationship works, how to use relationships and all of that. Now, relationship, basically what it does is help us reduce, the volume of table creations. You understand? For example, I want to be able to get the person who creates an item per time. So imagine me now creating a column. Watch this. On that same table, Dataverse session table, and I now come to create a column and call it user. I will now have to impute the users so that when the user is creating an information, he must check his name or probably impute his name. That makes no sense, right? It makes no development sense in this case. So in that case, it means is there an existing table that already contains information about users, right? Whether it is querying that user from the organization's Active Directory or whether there's a table where those information has already been hard coded, imputed into that table. You get the point? So whichever way, I can now synchronize, relate that table to my present table. So we have Dataverse version. Let's even start from the standard ones. Remember when I took us to columns earlier, I showed us standard columns created by, created on, modified by, modified on, and I said they were standard. Why were they showing up under our columns? We did not create that. So why are we saying that? We are seeing that because they are already being related. So created by, modified by, these are all columns existing on a table somewhere. Which table? Very simple. Guys, look at this. Created by is a column under the table called user. Can you see this? User. The users table is related to Dataverse version, see, as a many to one. The question is, but I've not seen you you didn't do that on this call. You did not relate this table. Did you do it before you come to this call? No, I did not. I did not do that at all. By virtue of out of the box OOB, when you create a table, I told us, and you create a table automatically, the system has been provisioned to relate your table automatically to this set of entities that you're seeing. So it's related to what? A table system called owner. So owner is related to what? User. You get? If there's a business unit or a team that user contains, you can query that. If there is if you want to guess, duplicate record, you see, there's a relationship already done to duplicate record table. So if there's a sharing, you can see. So all these relationships are already there out of the box. These are standard ones. But can you create yours? Yes. So let's do our own, right? So when I go to the top, look at how simple it is. I go to the top and I go to there are three kinds of relationships: one to many, many to one, many to many, right? And I'm sure we all know that, all right? So let's say I select a many to one. So can you see? This is my source table, the many. You can see the star to show that it is many. What do we mean by many? So which means I can have multiple Dataverse session. Oh, session 1, session 2, session 3, session 4, session 5, related to maybe one contact. So let's say Pelumi is a contact and Pelumi attends 10 sessions of Dataverse. So one Pelumi, a user or a contact, related to what? 10 different sessions. Can you see the idea now? So many to one, one to many are the same. What will make them different is the kind of behavior you select for them. And I'll show us what I mean. So let's look for contact, for example. Yeah, contact. So I'm relating this to contact. So you can see Dataverse to contact, many to one. Many Dataverse to one contact. So I can call this DT maybe underscore contact, just to give it a different name. Yeah. And then you can see the name Dataverse underscore DT contact, whatever. Let's just leave it that way. Now look at, this is what I'm talking about. I talked about behavior. So this is where I need to explain things to us. So when you're creating relationships, we talk about behavior. What does behavior mean? So behavior is this. There's referential and there's parental. Those are the two major behaviors. Custom, I will go there later. So what does referential mean? Referential simply means you are picking data when you need it. It's the same thing you'd call lookup. You pick data when you need it. So, for example, I want to get how many Dataverse session Pelumi has attended. At that instant, I will query the platform. I will retrieve the information and it ends there. Though there will be a link showing that I've queried something, I can decide to say, I don't want the link, remove the link. I can say, I don't want anybody affecting this relationship, so restrict people from deleting. You get? But the major thing I've done is what? I have been able to query that data instantly at the point where it was needed. You could be querying from an application, from an automation, from an external API, whatever. But the idea is what? You are picking the information from the Dataverse session through contact. So the idea is I select contact Pelumi. Once I select contact Pelumi, it releases for me all the sessions she has attended, and I can retrieve that information. That's referential. I'm referencing Dataverse session from the contact. It can be vice versa. I can say, I want to see maybe the highest number of Dataverse session attended. 10. And let me get the user who attended the 10. And I look up into contact. And on the contact table, I will now see, Dataverse session 10. Pelumi, it returns that information back to me. You see, I'm referencing, I'm looking up when I needed that data. That reference is different from parental. Parental simply means inheritance. So it means I am totally inheriting the values or the information of that other related table. So which means if I do Dataverse to contact inheritance, I am saying that what I want in this case, contact to inherit all the elements of Dataverse session. So when I pick the contact Pelumi, it shows me that, Pelumi has attended 10 sessions. Even if you delete the table, that information remains. You see that because it is parental, a child is inheriting the information of the parent. You see that? So in this case, I am not looking up. When I need the information is already available on the contact table, because it has totally inherited. So every time you create a new information on Dataverse session table, boom, automatically you find it on contact because of the parental mode or the parental behavior. So if you are creating a project where you want people to pick a table and then you want information from another table to be automatically available on this new table, you use parental. If all you want is, I don't want people to have quick visibility or total visibility into this information coming from a Dataverse version table, I want them to be able to just look it up at when they needed it. Then referential. Can you see the difference? Referential is you're looking up when you needed data. Parental is what you have that data existing on the related table. You see the idea now? That data exists on the, and the interesting thing about Dataverse is that data that is being that parental data that you have done, you see, when you get into application development, when you get to maybe whether you're building a model-driven application, a canvas application, and all of that, especially for a model-driven application, when you're creating your model-driven application, customizations, that's when you're doing your data experiences, when you're building your forms for Dataverse. Interestingly, you will find that parental data appearing as a column. It's a table, but it appears as a column. The same thing with referential too, though. That will appear like that. And that's the interesting thing about that. That's that orientation of relationships in this case, that connectivity that it gives. All right. Now, when we talk about custom simply means you can go ahead and then do more things. So I can say, okay, number one, I want to, when these are related, show me all the information from here. I want the ability to be able to assign. A user should be able to assign. It's just like you're performing a relationship security. You get, when I selected referential earlier, there are two security mode. You can restrict people from deleting that relationship model. You can, restrict people from querying that model. That's externally to your system. That's removing link, right? But when you now go to custom, with custom, you can now really drill it down to what you want. Do you want them to be able to assign that information? Do you want them to be able to share that information, unshare that information? Do you want to as a user to be able to reparent? Maybe I want to switch parents from this to this. You get that kind of orient. So you can drill down to now really break that. I will do a session purely on this, on how to set this up later, where we can really see how this works when we set it up. All right, in this case. So you can do all of this. So all of these behaviors is what makes up a relationship. So there is no relationship, there is no data experience without relationships. All right. There is no data experience without relationship. Relationship is what forms your application. Without relationship, you don't have anything called data management. There is nothing like that. Because how does your data connect? How do they speak to each other? How do they converse with each other? That is the things you do when it comes to when it comes to DB management. All right, in this case. Cool. All right. Now, let's do some interesting things, right? In this case. Okay, before that, let me save this. I like this relationship, so let me save it. Let me save this relationship. Okay. And then we'll go to keys. Let's go to keys. So that's still on that schema, we've looked at columns, relationship, and then let's go to keys. So like I said, most times when we do that relationship we've done, right, we hardly have need for keys, but you might still need to create keys. So most times keys are very valuable when you actually do need to maybe query Dataverse from an external platform. You might need a key. So if I click on new key, watch the difference. I am on a table called Dataverse. You will see that what is showing me here are one of two things. One, there are columns that I've created on this table or related ones. This is related, right? This is created. I created this experience column earlier, and I have this relationship. This is another column that we have. This is another column. So you can see all your columns are available. So he's asking you which key do you want to create? Like if I create a key now, that means anybody querying that key can access this information. Did you get? So let me say quick access. So anybody leveraging on this can access this. And notice something that is very beautiful for everybody. Even for creation of key, boom, our schema is here. because you cannot do without nomenclature. And I will take us to somewhere very important now where we'll see how this works. All right. So you can see this, everybody, right? Quick access, and then I can query this. So if I save, I have that key. So that key can be used, I can query that key. I can use that key maybe on a JS function or something like that, or even later on in my application development, just to query information. But most times, like I said, take it from me, everybody, take it from me. Most times, if you've done a very good job with your relationships, you wouldn't really need to have any to create keys like that, because with your relationships, you will be able to look up data as much as you need that data in this case. All right. So all of these bring together forms our database schema, our database schema in this case. Now, I'm going to go out of this for a while because I would like to explain these two. But before we go into this, because this data experience is what leads us to, this is how we now move on towards building application. But I don't think this for now is needed. So I want to take us further to explain some things here. All right, like I said, column security and all of that. That's what is key now. In other sessions, we can look at data experiences extensively, but let's drill more down into Dataverse itself. Now I'm going to go out to solutions. I have a solution I've imported, and I'll use that solution to just explain, to touch base with a few things. All right, in Dataverse, just to give us very confident understanding. I'm sure by now, when it comes to how we start Dataverse, that box is checked, columns and their data types checked, right? Relationships checked. Now let's look at underlying things in Dataverse. That is important. So let's pick it from all those elements that I was showing us earlier. All right, open up, boy, open up, boy. Let's go. So when this project opens up, it's a sample project, all right, it's a sample project. I'm just going to open one of the tables, and from that table already contains columns and a few things. So we'll just see how we can, okay, for example, enable audit, enable column security, and all of those things. All right, let's wait for this. Wait. All right. So while I'm waiting for this, if you have questions, just keep preparing your question. All right. See, in the next maybe 15-20 minutes, I'll just wrap this off, and then I can take our question, and then we'll continue this in our next session. Come on now. Let's reload it again. No problem. Okay. Fantastic. So what I'm trying to now show us next is, you have your tables, your relationship are done, all of those things are done, right? You now want to really drill down the service side of things. What I've shown us is the database side of things. Let's now go to the service side of things, right? Why do we call it Dataverse? Why do we call it a data service system? All of those. So what makes it that system? Its integration abilities, its security model abilities, and all of that. So let's switch our environment again. You see, I switch my environment again to Stringify DevOps. All right, and then I go to solutions. So this solution explanation, we explained it during our Power Apps session. I think maybe on Wednesday when we're doing our Power Apps session, we would explain it again. All right, so let me not waste our time. So if I open this solution, this Fabricam environment solution, which is a sample solution I got from one of Microsoft trainings just to use for our case. Load up, come on. Okay, good. So you will see that there are about, I think, 8, 9, there are about tables here already. Why are you taking so much time to load? Come on. Okay, let's try. Okay, I want to believe it's either my. Okay, I guess my reception is trying to play pranks on us. My reception is trying to play pranks on us. Okay, you know what? While this is loading up, let me take us back. We'll come back to this when it loads. Okay, fantastic. I think it's opened. So to security, since what we want to show is just how the whole element that the table contains, all right, and then some of those elements definitely has to be done from a security side, and then we have to still see how they synchronize with what happens inside the Dataverse itself. So I will go out of this. Let me just give it a moment to load up. Now, if I come to my Power Platform environment, everybody, the admin center now. Now, there's something we call security, column profile security, teams, and all of that. And so all of these elements here are elements that that works in line with whatever happens on the Dataverse system itself. For example, let's pick it up from security roles, right? Security roles, which is one major element to look into. Now, when we talk about security roles, what happens with security roles? Security roles uh, is a Dataverse, you know, security model system on how you can manage, users' access to your data. So, what do we mean by users' access to your data? Now, for example, let's pick any of these existing roles. Instead of creating the new one, let's just pick any one and edit, and let's see what we have. If I pick a basic user and I decide to edit this role, right? I think the issue might be with the solution, not the environment, because every other thing is working first. Just these guys. All right, so let's open up the security roles. Uh, let's go. Okay. I guess it's a catch data that's going on here. Let's see. Okay. Let's open all of this in an incognito browser. I guess data is being cached. Let's go. Okay. Okay, so uh let's do the admin center first. Okay, and then let's do the Power Apps instance. Okay. Okay. All right. So I guess data is being cached on the main browser. So let's work from the incognito browser. So we don't have cached data. I'll clean that up later. Okay, fantastic. Good. Okay. So the admin center opens up for us again. Then can work. Good. Okay, fantastic. So let's go to the environment now. Stringify DevOps environment, and then we'll go to security roles. So see the way, notice my navigation, everybody. Notice my navigation. Close all of this. All right, so I'm opening the environment again. Still waiting for Power Apps to load up. Okay. Okay, fantastic. So settings, and then security roles. Fantastic. And then let's edit that basic user role, right? The same one. So we edit it now. Okay, fantastic. All right. So everybody watch this. So this is security role, right? So this is where we manage security. Now watch this carefully, everybody, and I want us to take a quick look into this. You would see that with this security role instance selected, we have, look at the top here, everybody. You see where you have core records, sales, service management, and all of those things. So we have quite a lot of elements you're seeing at the top. I'm going to duplicate this instance. I don't know. I think something is wrong with this, my region, with the Power Apps region here, because I think the is not loading because of the region. I think maybe there's a downtime on the region, but that will not stop us. Don't worry. I will just swap between the one I have opened here, so we can get what I'm trying to show. Okay, fantastic, good. So this is fine. So let's go back to the other one. We'll navigate between both. Okay, good. So if you see this, you see I have core records, sales, service, business management, service management. Now, what you're seeing on my screen, everybody, is the entirety of your Power Platform resource. From your tables, all right, as your entity or your whatever your tables, to your application. It gets interesting. Watch this. The first one you saw here is called core records. You see when you have these core records, do you remember what I call core records? Core records are your standard tables. Everybody remember that. Don't forget that, please. You know, like I said, we're taking this slow. Core records are your standard tables. Your standard tables. What are your standard tables? The tables that came out of the box. Your account, your address, your appointment, your attachments, your business, all of this. These are all standard. Don't forget what I said. Anyone not tagged custom is a standard or is a core record. Are you following me? So if we then go back to that element that we're coming from, watch this, everybody. Can you see account is here? And you see that there are other ones you're seeing that you didn't see on the Dataverse earlier. You didn't see them because of this, and you will still not see some of them though. But watch this. You know, we are currently clicked on recommended because the system is recommending that I think this is what you just need. But let's click on all. If I click on all, we see something different. With all, it shows us more data. I think there's something wrong with this region. So you can see there's more data we can see now. We can see more tables that are available, and you can see that they are mostly either custom or managed or something, right? Fantastic. So that's what you're seeing. For example, you can see I'm seeing something like chatbot, and you'll be wondering what's chatbot. You see, that means your Power Virtual Agent, which is another element, has his own table that holds his own information. I don't know if I'm making any sense to anybody. That's why you're seeing those chatbots. You can see something like AI Builder. Why are you seeing that? There's a feature here called AI Builder. There's a feature here called Chatbot. They all have their own table where their informations are stored. All those tables are already created out of the box. You can create your own table for a specific purpose, even for your chatbot or for your AI builder. No issues with that. But are there existing tables that are OOB? Yes. And that's why you can see all of them like this. Yeah. So if we go back to where we are creating our security roles, you can see all of those standard tables are here. You can, even if you go down, you will still see some of them under miscellaneous, standard. If I go under custom, you see under custom, you can see that these are the ones that are called custom. We created experience earlier, right? Let's go and look for it. Experience. Was it no, not experience? Dataverse session. That's our table. See it, everybody. Dataverse session. Can you see that? That's the table we created. Can you see? That's our table. So you can see that. So if you have created multiple tables, you will have seen your table, which means you can now come and determine what do you want, what kind of access do you want to give for this table. So I'm saying that I have opened a security role called basic user. So what I'm saying is, if I assign basic user role to anybody in my organization, the person will be able to have access to perform these activities. What are the activities? Let's go back to the core records. First thing first, take your eyes to the legend below, to the key below. Can you see this key below? You will see there are 5 different elements that you can see here. The first one says none is selected. Second one says user. Third one says business unit. Fourth one says parent child business unit. Last one says organization. So which means if I check this box, watch this. The first one is account. It means every user in this organization that has this role, every user can create a right data on the accounts table, can read data on the account table, can write data to the account table, can delete data from the account table, can append data to another user or assign to another user, and organization-wide, anybody, it can share that information with anybody organization-wide. Can you see? If you set it for a business unit means there's a sect. For example, maybe there's an accounts department, an HR department. So you can say you can create a unit called HR business unit. So which means if you give a role to HR business unit, any user, right, in that business unit, maybe under an owner team or something, inherits that role. Did you see? So business unit is like you're managing teams, you're managing, faculties in your organization. Did you see the idea? While user is you are dealing with an entity, a single entity in this case. And then parent child means you have a sub business unit of a business unit. So you can have a faculty and then you can have department. Faculty of engineering. Inside the faculty of engineering, you now have a department of front-end engineers, department of back-end engineers, department of DevOps, department of citizen developers. You see the idea now. So you can have, and so you can determine to now give roles based on your prerogative. What are you doing? You are limiting the level of access you want to have to your data. Now, watch this, guys. I'm only showing you on a table. This is just tables, core tables or custom tables. In the middle are other things. If I go under customization, watch this, it gets interesting. Under customization, I can determine to do the same access for my application, for my Canvas apps. To say, come on, I don't want anybody that has this role should not be able to create a Canvas app, even if they have license. Should not be able to create Canvas app on this, you see, on this environment. I'm even limiting it further. That's the level of security structure you can create here. You see, with security roles, right? So I'm noting some things down that I'm going to show us. Customization is something we'll look into, right? So you are seeing what I'm doing here. So if you go to business process flow, you can still do the same thing with your automation. So say, okay, I want everybody in the organization to be able to have access to, expired processes, new processes, and all of that. You see, I have outcome lifecycle. This is my own custom process. I brought it in from one of these applications that we brought in earlier in this case, right? This is not still opening up. Imagine. All right, and then you can go ahead. There's business management. This is where you find most of your activity table, like your mailbox, your field sharing. But the whole idea here is you create this role as you want it, based on what you are looking at, based on the kind of access you want. In this case, you see that you check the box of what you are looking at. You're to suit what you're trying to achieve. Now, when you are done creating this role to suit your need, you can create a new one and all of that. So imagine you are done creating it. Now, what now happens is this. This is the role you've just done, basic user, right? And I can now easily say, oh, I want to give this role to this user. Boom. That takes us to, I can even do it from here, just basic user. Okay, let me show us from a very simple perspective. So if I come back to that users and permission, we just left here security roles to show how we can create a security role, how you can, give whether you want to make it for a user, a business unit, an organization or something. You can now come to user. This is where you manage users in the environment. Currently in my environment here, I have these users. So I can decide to now say, okay, I want to give that role to this user. I click on this user. I go to manage security roles. It will pop up all of the security roles we have. Can you see all of them? And I can decide to say basic user role and I save. Once I give this user the basic user role, this user is limited to do everything only that role can allow. Did you see that? Everything only that. So if that role says you should not be able to access a table, it can't access the table. If that role says you should be able to access a table as an organizational member, it will. Or as a specific user, it will. See, I have given the role to the user, and I can go ahead like that, and I can even give the role to multiple users as I want. Yeah. Now that's one. Two is you would see another thing called, and I'll probably just stop here and take questions, and then we can pick this up from the next time. Don't worry, we'll do a second part and third part of Dataverse. It's a large system because I've not talked about customizations, I've not talked about automations, so it's a large system, and I'm not going to rush it. Now look at this, everybody. So what I've just shown us is what? Just security rules, right? I showed us something earlier about column profiles, if you remember. Column profiles. So imagine what's wrong with this? Let's lose the other one. Anyways, this is what happens when you have regions. Let's go to, where's that? Our guy, Dataverse session, right? So let's open Dataverse session, everybody, and then let's open. So let me use this to explain column security profile. So if I go to boom, 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 boom. If I go here and I go to column security profile, it gets this is another level of security entirely, right? There are so many security profiles that are available here, but I'm just going to open. Let's say I just open any random one, or I can even create a new one. Maybe I create a new one. Say Dataverse profile, something like this. Yeah, and then I'll open the profile up. And then you can see that these are some guys that are here. But now let's do something. If I go back to that my Dataverse now, and I go to that my columns, yeah, and I go to, let me remember those columns we created. I think we created one called skill set, and let me remember. the skill set. Okay, so let's for example, let's pick on skill set, right? So I've clicked on skill set and I'm going to just scroll down and you see where it says enable column security. Yeah, I will check the box, I will save that, watch what happens. Oh, okay. Oh, I can't use this because see, interesting. Because I have a key created and this guy is part of that key. I can't use this guy. So let me do something. Interesting. So it's telling you that this column is even limited because it's already mapped to a key and you can't touch it. But let's do something. Let's chunk it away from that key so that we can use it. Just to show our column. See, that's another level of security entirely that you're seeing there. Let me do this. Okay, that's true. It's already, I can't make modifications. So what I'll do is I'll delete this for now. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back to that column. Okay, good. Skill set, for example. Okay, and then let's enable this guy. Good. So we'll save it now. So I've added skill set as I'm saying that I want to assign some sort of security prowess on this column. So let's go back to the other guy that we have, right? Which is here. Boom. And then let's do a refresh. Everybody, can you see what is happening? Can you see skill set is here now? See, skill set is here. So what have I done? I've added skill set to this profile, which means that what with skill set now added to this profile, I can start saying, okay, read only, do not create. I can go ahead and then set what kind of what security model I want for this profile. That is not even the interesting part of it. The interesting part of it is I can now decide to say any user that I had here. See, becomes the person who enjoys what happens here. So I can add user to this security profile. I can add a team. You see, I can add a team to this. What am I doing now? See, that's my column. So this is the column permission that I've added the skill set column here. I can now add a team or a user that would inherit what the reality of whatever it is that I've created here. What am I doing? I am limiting my column now to what? To users who can actually what? Act on that column. So because everybody have access, because I have I'm sure we saw what I showed us earlier in this environment. I had a lot of users, but that's not security good, right? The security model around that is not so good. So which means I can decide to say, even though I have 500 users in this environment, I only want 5 to have access to this column. You see, I create a column security profile. I can only say, okay, I only want 10 to be able to use this. I create a security role and give those 10. See, so many security angles functioning with Dataverse in this case, right? And that's just one part of things, right? There's the auditing part that I showed us earlier. There's the other part that we'll definitely look into. But what have we looked into today? We have looked into table compositions, how you can start by creating a Dataverse, right? Which I said you start from an environment. The moment you create an environment, let's not forget that I'm doing a recap. Once you come to create an environment, the system automatically asks you, do you want to create a Dataverse for this environment? Yes or no? So once you select yes, automatically you have that environment created. So when you now go into your Power Apps application or your Power Automate application, all of that, you would find your environment there with Dataverse provisioned. All right, with Dataverse provisioned already for you. You see that? So you can now easily start creating your tables, your columns, and your relationships, and then the security around it, which are the things we've looked into today. So in coming sections, we will now go further to look into I hope these little ones we've done, you can try them out on your own. Just create tables, create columns, do relationships, just test them out yourself and all of that. So in coming sessions, we'll now go into data experiences, and then the automations. What does business rule mean in Dataverse? What are the data experiences? We'll look at integrations. How do you import? How do you bring data into Dataverse? How do you send data out of Dataverse? We'll look at that. We'll look at all those when you enable audit, what does it do? When you enable feedback, what does it do? And all of that. All right. So subsequent session, we will not pick all those ones also in this case. But for today, we'll stop here and then we'll pick other sessions like that. All right. In this case. I hope this has been very interesting. I promise to share something with us in case you want to start trying things out yourself. There's what we call, before I take questions, there's something we call developers environment. Let me show you guys. If you look at my environment here, you would notice I have an environment called Ayotunde Ayola. You can see this environment, everybody. So this environment is available for everybody. Microsoft makes it free. Everybody can provision that environment, and then you can start testing things out, building data, creating your own Dataverse tables, building Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, just with enjoying the free nature of that. So to do that, you need to go to this URL. All right, I'm going to paste it on all the platforms we are currently, so everybody can pick it up. For those on Teams, I'm going to drop it on Teams. So, all right, so I'm going to paste it on Teams. So when you launch this, can you see this, everybody? So you can easily get started for free, or if you have a tenant you already currently in, you can do add existing. If you just add it like this to that existing tenant, and it will be for you alone. So every other person, the tenant, will not be able to have access. Only you will have access to that environment, and then you will be able to see the environment as Dataverse and everything you need to test things out. So I've pasted it on the chat. For those on YouTube, I will drop it in the comment section also, so you can just enjoy that. Okay, I'm going to open the floor for everybody in case you have questions. I already see a question on the chat here. So one of the questions says, do you think creating and maintaining Dataverse database is business user friendly or requires developer? Okay, fantastic. Fantastic question, Navin. Now, if you look at it, Navin, right, you would see that everything I've done since morning, I have not at one time, right? I did not at one time write any query, right? I did not write any query at any time. No time did I write any function, right? I had to just pick from here. Now, why you would say you need a developer is because you want to write a function. Everybody here can reason. That's the major thing about data management, is reasoning, being able to come up with algorithms in your mind. See, the moment I know that, what I need here is I need 5 tables for my application. And then out of the 5 tables, table A should be able to pick data from table C. Table B should be able to pick data from table A. Once I know that, all you need to do is come to your Dataverse and you start creating your tables and then your relationships, which is what I've shown us. Create your tables, create your columns, and then relate them to each other, and then send them to your application, and that's fine. Your application enjoys that, right? In this case, no need for any developer. Who tells you that even the developer is a database expert? He might be very good at writing programs, but not have so much database experience, right? But when it comes to database management or data management itself, first thing is understanding your data connections, how you want your data to talk to each other. Once you solve that problem, you can easily create your tables, create your columns, do your relationships, and your data is fine. Now, the flip side is the security side, right? Where you now have to determine, what kind of security model do you want to put in place, which also is still based on your user requirement, on your business requirement. So your business oriented requirement will now determine how do you go further to create your security roles, your security models, and all of those requires you don't have to have any development experience to do this. Everything I've shown for the past 2 hours, no development experience is required. All you need is a sense of reasoning. to think of how this should be done, how this should be done. This, I want this to be this, I want this to be this, and I've shown you how you can at least start up that structure first. You get the point, Navin? So that's the very first one. All right, good. Okay, so I have a question from somebody here also. I hope that answers the question, Navin. Yeah, let me know. So somebody else is asking the question. Let me see. Oh, okay, fantastic. So person is saying that can't read this well. Sorry, 1 minute. Okay. Security rules, okay. Yes. So it's asking if this security setup is organization wide or just for the environment. So like I said, the way Dataverse works, Dataverse are environment oriented. So you see all those things I did in that security is purely, everything I've done were purely for stringified DevOps environment. So those security setup you saw us do are not those column profiles, column security profiles, and all of that. They are not for the entire organization. No, they are purely and solely for that stringify DevOps environment. So every environment gives you ability to structure how you want their security models to look like. All right. So Navin says, I felt relationships with all cascade options was complex. So Navin, if you look at what I showed us earlier, right? So most times the reason why people feel they are complex is because of, see, first thing first, understand data retrieval model. See, the reason why a lot of people have issues when it comes to relationships is because of the lack of understanding of data retrieval models. So that was why I took time to explain that retrieval model, referential, parental. That's the first thing. You get the point. So once you crack that understanding of the fact that the way data is being retrieved is either you are retrieving from a reference point, wherever you are looking up into data, or you are actually inheriting data totally. See, those first two options checks the point of what everything that relationship entails. When it now comes to data cascading is simply selecting an item. Is it referential? If it is referential, you receive, you get it cascade down all information of that of that related entity, right? Contact to Dataverse version. I pick contact, I get the cascade, all the versions, all the sessions, sorry, for that contact. You see that? I'm doing many to one, right? In many to one, I'm saying, oh, I'm picking 10 different data points, and then I want to look at what is constant to all these 10 different data. What is constant? A contact. So 10 sessions, one contact. Can you see? That's another cascading reference for looking at it from a many to one perspective, right? In this case. So once you get that, the next level will now be the security model level, where you now determine to say, okay, who queries that activity? And that was why you saw that. Let's go back there. That was when you saw me going down to the behaviors. So under the behavior, let's just pick anything. So under the behavior, when you now select a custom, all of these are not, listen carefully, all of these are not retrieval models. All of these are security models for actors here, whether it's a user actor or, so it's asking you, who do you want to have the ability to do a cascade assignment? Should it be a user? Should it be none? Should it just be active across board depending on the invest? So when I say active, that means it's going to be active for the table. If I say user owned, it means that I'm limiting the approach or the possibility to a user. How will it recognize that a user should be doing this? Don't forget. Then this will now take us down to whatever security role any user has. If a user has access to this table based on security role, then they can assign, they can share, they can unshare. Did you see? But if this was selected as active, I'm just saying leave it open-ended for the organization. Do you see the idea now? So, but when it comes to data querying, this is where you are talking about data querying. Are you referencing? Are you what? Are you doing parental model? Did you see? See, this is where the major, this, once you can get this explanation I've made now, you've solved your relationship problems. in any database management system, any data service system across board. All right, fantastic. I hope that's clear, Navin. Any other question from anybody? Okay, the two questions there says, okay, they said it has been answered. Okay, fantastic. Any other question from anybody on Teams? All right. So I hope the explanations were clear enough, right? Fantastic. All right, fantastic. So, like I said, watch out. Subsequent, the next sections will take it further to the customization side of things of Dataverse. So customizations in Dataverse as well, we'll be talking about next time. Customization in Dataverse, and then possibly when we get to customization in Dataverse, we can then go to say, let me look at it, automations in Dataverse. So, and then the last one would then be fully going into data experiences. Yes, that would be the next, that would be the last one. All right. So I will try and, so what I do most times, I drop some of these, I drop my videos from YouTube just to clean it up, then I will re-upload. All right. So if you okay, I see somebody's asking for my YouTube channel. Okay, I will drop the YouTube URL on the chat, but there's no video. This video will not be there yet. I will just drop it, clean it up, and then re-upload it. Okay. And then you can always go back to listen to it. If there's no other questions from anybody, thank you everyone for joining the session. I'm grateful. And then watch out for the next update and poster for the next session, where we'll be talking about other things, in this Dataverse journey. Thank you everybody for joining the session. Please do have a wonderful time wherever you are, and I will see everybody in our next session. All right. Do have a wonderful time.
Thank you, AY.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.